All right, welcome to episode 19 of the Just a Moment Ago podcast. Today we're back with Justin, JJ. How you doing, JJ?
Good, bud.
Yeah?
Really good.
That's always good. Things going good right now? Feeling
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, hanging in there.
Hanging in.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be discussing, taking life for granted and, how we treat people and the choices that we make. What does it mean to you when you hear taking life for granted?
It's something that I think we all do constantly.
Yeah? If you had to kind of define it, though, like being neglectful of things that are important, how would you maybe define it, taking life for granted?
Just really just the fact that we're alive today, just talking, healthy. It really is absolutely terrible, I think, how normal it is for us to take life for granted.
Oh, for sure. Because even in my life, I mean, over the last year or two, I've seen a lot of, people trying to purposefully hurt others, being very neglectful of their family and making poor choices for people around them. I mean, there's a lot of taking life for granted going on that I can see. So some days it's actually hard to stay focused and try to be positive and not let that negative stuff creep in.
It's a everyday battle. At least it definitely is for me.
Just as an example, like, let's say in the last 7 days, can you think of a time you've taken, life for granted?
Getting angry over a minor thing that I got so angry about. Once you slow down and reevaluate every time you get angry, was it really about, like, say, like stubbing your toe and you start slamming stuff around and everything, or was it the lead up to it? That old saying, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yep.
That's a really good way to put it, because the simple fact that with addiction now, it's just, what are we at now? I believe it's 330 people are dying every day. So there's
Right.
24 hours in a day. That's how many per hour?
It's a lot of people, man.
That's probably on the low end. Whenever they do those studies, I've noticed they always go with the low.
Well, during addiction, taking life for granted is... Do you almost... I don't even know.
It's a full-time, occupation.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the proper word there, but that's a tough one to even put a word on it. Like, it's all you're doing is taking life for granted. Like, every choice you make, you're constantly on death's door, just hanging on the edge of something negative, really negative, changing your life. Do you feel that practicing gratitude helps with not taking life for granted?
Absolutely.
Because even like on our walk earlier, we were talking about, different people where they sleep and different things. And we kind of had a little difference of opinion on who should be allowed to do what and get away with what. But at the same time, everybody does need to have a safe place to be, at least, even if it may not be convenient for, everybody else around all the time. If they're safe in that moment, then that's kind of the way it has to be. And we kind of take our situation for granted.
Yeah.
We both live blocks away from a lot of homelessness going on all around us.
Yeah.
Like, just one street over, there's all kinds of people sleeping in the woods back here, down by your place, down by the river there, that whole, that ledge there. They cut the weeds down on that under the bridge.
And I'm pretty sure they did that because it was the tents and...
Right.
And that's...
Because there was 3 there, if I remember.
They cut down a whole... Yeah, a huge area now.
So with that, how do you feel that being in the moment and being present helps with being thankful for your life and not taking things for granted?
It's actually an every, not only day battle to practice gratitude, It's in every like hour.
It can be
It's
challenging to be present,
it
like,
is. Like when people there's a lot of people that see all the homeless people and they say that we just need to get them out of there. Every single one of those people is a human being. Every single one of those people is obviously, I do believe, yes, some do choose to live that, you know,
right, they do. Some want to bounce around and just be
just
free. That way they
live.
feel
They
free.
go
Like,
from city to city, and some of them are actually probably 10 times more happier than your average, person who's struggling.
right,
It's that whole mindset that out of sight, out of mind, judging a book by its cover.
right.
There's it could go on for days, and we're all kind of guilty of that. You know, but I know everything I've been through. I'm glad today that I'm practicing gratitude. I want people to learn from. We both definitely agree on that. How we hope to God that somebody learns from the
Right.
mistakes we made, because just looking, I cannot imagine getting sober and all that like 15 years from now. That absolutely terrifies me.
Yeah, I can't express the pain that you're gonna go through if you find yourself wound like in active addiction. There's
I
so much physical and mental pain that so many people go through. Like, you, I just don't know how to express it enough. You know.
I could, if I honestly explaining addiction to somebody who does not have an addiction and doesn't know anything about addiction, honestly, it just seems like probably an immovable object meets an unstoppable force. Like, what happens?
Yeah.
You might as well just go explain it to a brick wall. I don't think you're.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. If the person has understanding, you can get through. But if they have any feelings of this is your choice, you're doing it, you did it to yourself, you continue to do it to
That
yourself,
one
you have
right
no
there.
control,
Yep.
like you're just gonna keep, they don't understand what it is as a whole, then yeah, it's a brick wall that's just you're never gonna get anywhere.
No, and it's.
Do you practice self awareness? Like, is it easy for you to practice self awareness?
I think I want to say I do it a lot more than I used to, and I'm very glad I do that, because it's easy to get caught up in, you know, like it's all depends on how you feel. Like, what I'm dealing with the post acute withdrawal.
Yeah.
It's like the severe brain fog. I've been suffering from insomnia for like months now.
Right.
The mood swings, the the lack of people understanding has been a battle in itself,
Right.
and that is just gave me more. It just added more fuel to me, just wanting to make sure that I do everything in my power to make sure that nobody makes the same mistake that I have.
Right.
At
Yeah.
least for myself. I know that that's how you feel too, but
Right. Pause
it,
is scary. Yeah.
this is when you have a really good, like, you know, a good friend or a good family member that does understand, is when you sit there and you argue with the person over something, and then you realize, that, you're actually, it was just a simple debate, having an opinion, but you agree to disagree, even if it's to that extent.
Right.
But you still love the person at the end of the day. You
For
care
sure.
about them. And you want to talk about gratitude. I am one of probably the luckiest people, that because I have not one but many, like, people that I know. Just yesterday, I have a friend that he could tell something was off with me, and he kept texting me and bothering me, and he wouldn't let it go till I did talk to him.
And you did eventually talk. And
Yeah, yeah, and I was subconscious. I was so busy with everything else going on in my life that I was just like, I'll maybe talk to him later. I'll maybe talk to him later. But it's what he was saying on the thing that I was kind of ignoring. And it's like, that is a huge thing with addiction, mental health, just if you're struggling with anything in life. It's like you don't, you push away even, or you
Right.
ignore the people that really do care about your well-being.
That's
And
yeah.
to have, at least in this day and age, to have one friend that honestly could be like will stop everything and truly is worried about you. I think you're a very lucky person, and I have like more than five that I know.
That will stop everything.
Yeah, and
That's yeah. That's very lucky.
and you want to talk about gratitude? That is beyond gratitude. All is, I know when it comes to addiction, I've always said the same thing. I don't wish it on my absolute worst enemy. Like who in your life, you don't obviously don't say who it is, but who has hurt you the most ever in your life?
A relationship.
Right. Do you ever wish addiction upon them?
No.
That's exactly.
That would just be no. I can't even imagine wanting somebody to
Yep.
go through that. It's years and years of stress and struggle.
I sent
No.
you that thing the other day of that Navy SEAL.
So
who
that's
was-
actually
yeah.
one interesting thing with this is, do our choices often impact us, or are they often impacting multiple people around us, even smaller choices?
I'd say the second one. Like,
Right.
More. It's like when you swear around a child. Yes, it may slip out from time to time, but if you
Mhm.
make it a habit, that child, he may start, talking like you do. It's,
Right.
I mean, that's just.
They probably will start
Yeah.
mimicking what you're saying, and then they'll say it in front of the wrong people or in public, and then it's like, oh, you say that in front of the kids, and now they're saying it.
And this kind of brings up a whole nother thing, but I'll just go into it quick because it is something that I know I'm changing as a person, because it absolutely makes me sick that it is in hip hop, in culture now, and not just hip hop. I think it's just as a whole that it's cool to get high. And I mean, not just with weed anymore. We've talked about this kind of before, the lean scene,
Right.
the faded. I don't recall when it started, but I only see it getting worse. And it's not only with that, the whole drill scene that started, back in like 2010, 2011, where like it's either drugs, drug dealing, and also getting high on drugs.
Right.
And I mean, we're talking like tens and tens and tens of millions of influence.
Yeah.
Kids.
For sure.
I mean, we grew up with Lil Wayne,
Right.
and
We grew up with some heavy influencers as well. I would say Eminem was.
yeah,
Think about the stuff that he said.
he definitely he did talk about drugs and everything, but
And killing people.
yeah, is that Kim song?
Suicide and a lot of craziness in there. But yeah, Lil Wayne.
I think Lil Wayne was the one who really started the whole thing. I don't think he was trying to,
Right.
but I don't think you can even think about Lil Wayne without him having the cup,
Well, of course.
the double cup, the triple cup.
Of
and
course.
That brings up actually a really good thing, is a really good topic, not a good thing, but the whole lean scene is now, that was strictly like a huge thing in Houston, as far as I know.
Yep.
Down south,
Yep.
all in general.
For sure.
And now you're seeing it up here.
Mm-hmm. You're seeing it all over. And you're actually seeing a lot of stuff mimic Dirty Sprite. The
Yes.
flavor is all over the place. Like, you can find Dirty Sprite gummies, you can find Dirty Sprite like CBD carts, you can find
Yeah.
Dirty Sprite, all kinds of different things. Like, so they're mimicking lean. They're mimicking opioids. And they're
There's legal
selling it to
lean.
kids. They're selling it to all these different groups of people. right? It's just like, what is it? Can you, the legal lean?
It's called legal lean.
Right. But
Like
is it, what is it actually though? Is it, it's like CBD or something, right? It just
there's
kind of makes you a little mellow.
I
Like,
think I don't think it's CBD. I think it's melatonin and just all like natural stuff. Yeah, actually, I think you should look it up because they actually I saw it on a thing where they put it in a purple like medicine bottle even. Like it looks like syrup. Like
right.
the legal lean, I remember seeing it one time at Walgreens, and I was just like, "What?" Like it just shows how much like something like that is so powerful with advertisement and kids who don't have proper parents nowadays. Which whoever doesn't have any guidance, especially if you're at like that, what would you say? What age do you think you're the most impressionable, like most vulnerable to outside influence?
Probably
I mean, that's kind of a
11
hard.
to 16. I'd have to do it broad because I'm not. I
Yeah,
haven't looked at
I
any studies or
that was a
anything
broad
recently,
statement.
but
But just that's what I'm, like a ballpark estimate, I guess.
mm,
Like, I think middle school age is like detrimental. Whatever you get into when you're 11, 12, 13
yeah,
is, and say you don't have any, like your parents are on drugs or something, or your parents are just not around. The more that goes on, the more you're going to be influenced by, well, I want to be this. I want to be like, Lil Wayne. I want to be like whoever the next poppin' artist is.
right.
And that's where I've seen over the years is it seems like the most, like, the absolute epitome of somebody that I would pray that my kids would not be influenced by. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. How I believe actually now it's official 100%.
Here's legal lean right here, sipping syrup.
See what I was saying? That's what I seen at Walgreens. Not that one. Go back a sec. Now I got that song stuck in my head. Sipping on that scissor.
All right, so we
see
got
that third one right there. That's
drink,
what I was talking about.
relax, and then we got 6-pack of Texas Mud Pink.
See, that's
$75 a bottle, dude.
And this was quite a while ago. It was like a couple of years ago. I can't remember. But when I seen that at Walgreens, I'm pretty sure it was Walgreens
Look
or
at all
Walmart.
this though. They got all the hemp gummies. What's this here? Mood Boost, just sugar-free seltzer. I seen another one though that looked kind of interesting. All these right here, like
Yeah.
this sip and serve, $56 for 12-pack. That's melon though, so I suppose that's what you were saying.
Well, look at they're shaped like a prescription. There's certain states that I shouldn't even say it because that could give a kid an idea.
I wouldn't.
No,
I mean,
I just caught myself there.
but yeah, that's really interesting, man.
Your past history. Did you ever get into lean, or at least try it?
So, I had lean 3 different times, but it never was like, it never really did a whole lot for me. And the third time I had it, I actually just sold half the bottle because I was like, this sucks.
Was it promethazine and codeine?
But I'm pretty sure when you're using though, and you need a specific dose to get where you are trying to be though, that's really weak when you're used to taking,
Yeah.
like OxyContin and stuff. So
But the thing is with that stuff is,
I feel like the people that are sipping that, yes, they're addicted, but they have like, it's like such a mellow, light buzz unless you overdo it, of course. But if you just continuously slowly do it, it's not a heavy buzz, but it's going to take the edge off and keep you more mellow.
this brings up a perfect point is that was your experience. You know what I mean? And if you had like, it's very expensive too, as far as I know. Like,
it is, yeah.
they-
Well, even on here, look at $75
Yeah, that
for
wasn't
a
even
bottle
the
of
real
fake.
stuff.
Yeah, the real stuff on the pharmacy was only $14.90.
And this whole thing with the culture of it, they say it's because of what's it, Soldier Boy and Justin Bieber. When they started, not only were they doing it, this was years ago, and they were, uh, it's like they did everything in their power to look cool doing it.
Well, of course.
It actually made such uproar that they took activists, which was as far as I know, like it was the prime, like the champagne of all of them. They actually the pharmaceutical industry took it off the shelf. This wasn't an American one. Activist is Irish, and it's in Ireland. Because I'm sorry, in America, they would have never done that. More money, the better. You know, I applaud them for actually doing that.
Right.
And that really just, like I said, because you tried that, it isn't weak though. Like if you have an unlimited supply and you keep making it more and more and more money.
Well, right, of
like
course.
how they say, like
it's different for everybody.
And here's the thing: is I always got a better high off Tramadol than I
Right.
did Vicodin. Some
Right.
people would
You've
laugh.
said that in the past, yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, it was longer and it was more euphoric to me. And Tramadol, it was actually not even a narcotic until like a couple of years ago, I believe. In fact, it's just looking back, I would have preferred that over really anything, kind of, for the most part. That's why I was prescribed like 180 of them. I don't think you can get 180 of anything, even if it's non narcotic today.
I'm sure the elderly people still do.
I don't know
But
about 180 of
Not
them, though.
they're probably younger people or stuff, but when you think about actually when you would take stuff and get high, do you remember ever having negative feelings towards, you were taking things for granted too often? Because I can remember really, like, if you're in the process of like using, I always felt like kind of negative during that time because you're doing something wrong, but as soon as you do it, then you're just like, oh, I'm good. You feel fine. But it's the process and everything that you're just not, like, there's a lot of negativity surrounding it.
Like from getting to A to B, that
Yeah.
in between that, all the
Right. And all you do
the
is spend
scamming,
time.
doing whatever you have to do to get that high.
Yeah, so that's why when you're in recovery, like, you're apologizing to, all the steps people do.
Making
And
amends,
it's
yeah.
like, because you took so much for granted during that time. You spend all of your lifetime just chasing this little thing. That's not how life's meant.
No, and that's
Do you remember how many times you've changed your perspective over the years because of living like that?
really it's I don't know if you ever, it's kind of I've told some people but not many, but there was something that happened to me in 2018 when, and it's what I call like a spiritual awakening. And that is actually the 12th step, as they say, to all A and NA. And even though that's a 12th step, I wasn't even working the steps then. I don't know what happened. I just noticed I wasn't as angry. I started feeling guilt. I started feeling like something had to change.
Right.
And even though I wasn't fully sober yet, I just knew that I wanted to help people. It's like I had a full-blown conscience that hit me like a freight train. I won't ever forget it. Like, I even remember the day. And ever since that time, I've had my struggles here and there.
So were you seeing did you see things negatively for like a short period of time and then you snapped out of it and then you realized
That's just
like
a short period of time.
Well, I'm saying, like, you were negative for a while and it kind of built up for how long was it? Like,
Well, especially when I was like from 22 years old till I was 28.
Okay, that's a substantial amount for
And,
years.
there was actually
So,
periods in there of time where I was sober
but
for,
did you carry negative energy though, or what
oh, yeah,
did you get
it,
positive? Or,
both, but there was at times I was absolutely looking back. I cannot believe the person I was. Like, if
a
I
lot
were
of
to talk to myself, or if I could go back in time and actually talk to myself, I would want nothing to do with me.
right.
I would absolutely want nothing to
Well,
do with
yeah, I
me.
don't think I'd get along with my previous self either.
No. You know that old saying, like, it takes one to know one?
Yeah.
God, just, wow, looking back, the,
Well, it's just like when people try to bullshit you after you've done it so much.
oh,
You can
and
see through it a
it's,
lot of times. You're just like, no, come on, no.
and
you
this is the
know, like,
worst part. It's when it's a young person that I can see they're starting to, party too much or something like that. It honestly is like personally like
right.
heartbreaking
Yeah.
because you just want to almost like grab them and be like, don't do it,
Hmm.
and
So during that 4 years, were there any significant events that changed your perspective, or were there anything outside of that 4 years a significant event that's ever
uh,
changed your perspective?
with so many I cannot even explain looking back.
But has there been like one bigger one that you could point out that really changed how you felt?
Um, that is a very good question. In fact, I was in jail waiting to go to treatment because I was on probation at the time, and I had lost my grandfather. I was actually talking to my mother on the phone, and she said that the pastor, there's every pretty much every jail has a, like, chaplain,
Right,
you know.
right.
She said the chaplain didn't come to see you, did he? And I was like, no, why? She told me that my grandfather, on my dad's side, he had passed away. I can remember the most, like, helpless, like, just absolutely angry at myself, just every kind of emotion that you can think of. And I couldn't go to his funeral because I was, in jail 100% because of the choices I made. I remember it like it was yesterday. This was in 2015 or 2016, I think. I was in jail for like 2 months, and I remember I actually even got mad at my mom, and I was like, why did you tell me that? And jail is not a very private place. Like everybody's around. There's so many people piled into a block, and I remember there was a couple people that heard me say that, and they were generally like worried about me. And this brings up the whole gratitude and never
Right.
judging a book by its cover,
Right.
because there was people in there that generally did care and
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see me do better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to talk about, like, that's something I actually think about a lot because I was so selfish and just thinking, oh, I'm only hurting myself when I get high. That's bullshit. You know?
That comes with the choices and people
Yeah,
around you.
exactly. I mean, how
Everything
many
you do
times have
affects
you
people.
probably thought that? And, that brings up the whole
That
argument
you're
that
only
drugs should
hurting
be
yourself.
legal.
That you're only hurting yourself
Yeah.
when you get high.
You are hurting. If you have a family that loves you and
Well,
all
it even
that,
goes back to we talked about contributing to cartels and different stuff like that. It's all
it's a.
together. Like, there's
Exactly.
no, unless it's, well, you could say unless you buying it from a store and taxing it, and who knows
The
where it's coming from then, even though, but
All in all, it brings up that whole, it's that black and white, that simple minded, out of sight, out of
mm,
mind thinking that is addiction in a nutshell.
right?
I mean, it's like how, people think of jail and they just think, oh, they did it to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They deserve it. They don't think of, I met people in jail who told me stories like their their stepfather or even their father shot them up with cocaine. You know, can you, like,
No, I can't imagine it.
and I,
Doing that with probably anybody in my family, I don't know. That'd be weird.
and how normal that person
Yeah.
said that.
Well, for some people, it is just very normal for their family members and people right around them to do it all the time, you know?
It's,
To grow up at a young age and see it early. So, with that, how does the realization of your own mortality and being a veteran affect your choices and how you view life?
I can definitely say that this goes into the whole spiritual awakening, whatever you want to call it. You know how they always say there's two things you don't talk about, and that's politics and religion. I know that this will help anybody. There is something. You always have to have a higher power, because I know that I don't know if you can just see like how meaningful it was to finally, it's more than just like growing a conscience. I remember the day, I remember everything, how I just knew that I wasn't as angry. I just taking life for granted. On our walk, like we go, for quite a couple mile walk before every podcast.
Right.
We run the risk of dying just out there. Anything could happen at any second.
Oh, for sure. Any moment can change your life. Just a second, yeah.
When you got mugged, when you were just getting in your car what was it, like 2 years ago now?
So, I actually had just gotten out of my car and was out of the car for a few moments, and someone got in my car while I was out of it, and then I came back out. Like, that's so I wasn't exactly mugged, but they took my phone and stuff, like, and there was a slight altercation and I was injured and some things happened. But
I just remember you sent me the picture when you were in the ER, and I think you lost your toe.
Yeah, ripped up my toe pretty good there. Had to get some stitches. Sandals and altercations is a bad mix.
I tell you what, though, man.
I can laugh now, but at the time it was really crazy.
Yeah. Ever since that day, have you gotten in your car different, or
Well, we have cameras.
What's that?
We have cameras. We put up cameras, so now we have it posted out there that there's cameras. We have cameras around the whole house.
Yeah.
Before that, we were talking about getting them, but we didn't have them yet. But there's nothing that's gonna make you get them, like getting robbed.
Exactly.
It's gonna put a fire under you. It's too bad. And that's another thing, though. That actually is another thing that comes with this whole conversation, is why do we always wait until something bad happens to take action?
You just
think about that.
That's why I brought this up. And that is, it seems to be that's how it is, unfortunately, especially with addiction.
Right?
And
it's so true.
do you remember, I don't know if you've been on probation before, right?
Yep.
You have to be, something has to happen where you end up in custody for them to even consider giving you treatment.
I actually, I was on a PO hold once for like 5 days, but other than that, I had a different experience than most people do on probation. Now, I was on for 2 years. They asked me one time if I did drugs or did anything, and I said, no, I don't even drink. Never brought it up again.
It's pretty much, at least how it is if you don't make them do any paperwork, it's out of sight, out of mind. Just like
like, I thought it was weird that it's just one question. It was like, once I said I didn't drink, it was just like, oh, he doesn't drink, well, he must definitely not do anything then. Like, okay,
and that goes with the whole, how many people have you manipulated,
right,
and done stuff, even you didn't even realize it. Now looking back with your addiction,
Oh, and that feels like innocent little, like, oh, I don't do that. I don't even drink. And it's just like, they
And
believe you 100% cool. And it's like, that is actually a form of manipulation. Like, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, but you
But
don't realize it. And addiction literally hijacks your whole frontal lobe. Like if you want to get technical, it overrides the need for hunger and thirst, and it affects more than like your frontal lobe, your thinking. It actually affects like your survival part and like the back of your brain.
right.
It is, God, dude. Like I said, I don't wish it upon my worst enemy. Nobody. There is some times where I will say, I wish this person could feel what I'm feeling,
Yeah.
just for like 1 minute, even.
But not to live it.
No,
Like, right.
and
Well, they have like those period cramp simulators and baby
Yeah.
birth simulators. They got to
That's
make
funny
wonder
you
if they have a
I seen
withdrawal
that.
simulator.
they have
You'd
a
have
what?
a withdrawal simulator. You'd have to wrap that thing around your arms, your legs, your middle of your body,
Every crevice of your body.
and then stand there while your whole body just pulses and squeezes and everything else, and see how long you can handle that. Like,
In fact,
ask yourself if you'd be going to find anything or not if that was your reality all day until you found relief.
and that brings up. I'm glad you actually said that, because I absolutely am so sick of this. Has been forever. How many times have you heard this? That opioid withdrawal is like the flu.
I've heard that, yeah.
Oh, I've heard it a million times. Or
I
some
haven't
people
heard
are like,
it a ton, but
it's
I've
like
heard
the
it some.
flu, but way worse. That's I wish it was that simple.
Right. Oh, it's like the flu, all right.
I
Times a lot more. Like,
put it this
it's
way.
way more than the flu.
I know, sitting here, I know this as an absolute certainty. If I had to cut my own fingers, like even a couple of them off, and I had to do it, and if it would take away all the cravings, the addiction, everything, I would do it. In fact, I would do it in a heartbeat. I won't even think twice.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I mean, if I handed you a knife and I had the power to take away all of the addiction, even going back in time and fixing all of that, wouldn't you do that?
I'd give you my arm.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
To
And
be
you don't even really
myself
think
again,
about-
after all the
Yes.
stuff I've been through with my stomach and stuff because of, yeah.
And that's just the physical
Like,
part.
I would be okay with, with prosthetics and stuff nowadays, you'll get another arm. Like, you'll be able to use that other hand just fine. So you can take it from like here-ish, the elbow down, and then we'll get a prosthetic and we'll be all right. And then you can be normal again.
And that
I
is,
don't- yeah.
and we're not exaggerating either. I mean, look at that,
No, and
without
it's hard
hesitation.
to say that because people will be like, of course you'd say that, or of course
That's
this
why
or
I said
that.
I'm not
But it's like,
exaggerating. I put it on everything.
if it was an actual situation, it damn near probably would happen. It's crazy. But to be without the feeling of withdrawal and the opioid, like that addiction would be worth it, I think.
Or how about a good, solid, like you get your ass beat by like 10 people for 10 minutes, or you go through withdrawal for a day?
Well, both of them are horrible.
Well, no, honestly, I think
A
the going through withdrawal.
10-minute ass whooping, you would probably die.
Yeah. Well, no, but hypothetically, though, that's what I'm
Maybe
saying.
10 seconds.
Well, I know it sounds funny, but honestly, that withdrawal that I went through, coming up actually like almost on the 19th, it'll be 3 months I've been off.
Well, people don't realize that how strong that methadone is.
It makes heroin withdrawal. There's plenty of, people that have been through both, all kinds of withdrawal, but methadone is scientifically proven and it's well known. It makes heroin withdrawal, the 4 or 5 horrible days of opioid and heroin withdrawal, a cakewalk. And this is why, like, I actually said this to somebody once that he's been on methadone for, I don't even know, I don't know, like 10, 15 years, I think. And I asked him once, if you were to ever be arrested, say you even got arrested for attempted murder, like you had a humongous bond, you're facing, 40 years in prison, but because you go to the clinic every day and you can't get your dose, which would be your biggest scare? Would it be the charge or would it be the withdrawal that you're about to have?
Both.
What does that tell you, though? I mean, honestly, like, if you were to be put in handcuffs right now.
It depends on your level of withdrawal for people, though. Some people have minor withdrawal, and some people have extreme withdrawal.
All I'm saying is, I've been through a lot in my life, but nothing compares to the withdrawal that I had, going on like 3 months ago. But that's a whole nother story.
Well, what about the first time that you weaned off of it? Like, it's not the first time.
I was such an active addiction that I didn't even. I was just going there to test positive for opioids. I wasn't even there a month, I don't think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just looking back, how much is a blur? Like, going back through your...
All the time you're suppressed.
Yes.
It's terrible.
Like and I find myself, and even when I was on going to the clinic and everything like that, I would have to, like, remind people of what day it was, what time it was even.
Right.
And I guess that goes into the whole long-term effects of everything.
But the days run together when you're in a program, too. It's just all one big jumble of days.
Yeah.
It's easy to not know what day it is unless you actually have something going on or pay attention to your life. There's so many people that don't.
And that goes into the whole... They're just lost. And I mean...
Some just don't care, too. It's just easy to not care and float through this stuff. Like,
and
stay on a high dose forever.
Yeah. And,
But that's where people have to get their spirituality and stuff, too. You're, taking life for granted and not making good choices. You don't have forgiveness and things. Like,
me and you started... because of injuries and everything, I was allowed a lot of medications, and we are actually very lucky. I didn't know till the other day. You said that you were not a full-blown addict until you were 26?
Yeah.
Well, I was like 23 by the time I was completely, like, I knew I was addicted. I knew I needed to have the opioids to not be sick.
Right.
Do you know how fortunate we are? Because there's so many people that have got into painkillers, got into drugs in general when they were like 12, 13, 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's not a proven fact because anything with psychology is very, a broad term, with all the labeling and all that with psychology. But they say whatever age you start using at, get full-blown addiction in, whatever age, you stop developing.
I've heard that, yeah.
And I believe that is true, but I don't believe that that's like that all day, every day. Like, if you start using at 16, you're a 16-year-old forever.
Right.
But I do see that.
Mm.
Like, I just think that as far as gratitude and everything, we are lucky that there is a positive to, I guess, that we started later. Because look at everything we've been through. Can you imagine if...
The thing is, though, with me, like, I was taking stuff at 16, 17, 18, but I had prescriptions for back pain, and I just never wanted to push that stuff. I never pushed the limit because I knew what could happen. It wasn't until I was in my mid-20s and I was going through emotional pain, I just stopped caring what would happen. And I had so many around me that it was just endless. Like, I had no problem getting them. They were just there easily. So because there, and that wasn't hardly any cost to me, so that's how it all fell into place. And then when I would do it, I felt really good, so I'd go to school and do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I just keep doing it rather than not do it and don't you feel emotionally unstable. Do it and feel emotionally stable and try to figure it out later. But that doesn't work because later is going to come whether you like it or not. That's the problem. If you could freeze time and later wouldn't come, then it would work. But you can't. There's no remote like in Click.
And that's
And even that movie shows you what happens when you mess around.
that is a good movie. I mean, the whole point of the movie.
When you take your days for granted and you fast forward through this and that because you don't care about it or you just want to do what you want to do.
Yup.
Neglecting.
I think as humans we do that when we're not addicted to something.
Like with all this too, like how do you feel when you see people acting like getting mad over petty things or being entitled, or treating people badly? Like,
I get, it depends on the mood I'm in. Depends on how I'm feeling at the time, I guess.
Like people at the coffee shop flipping out over tiny little mistakes or just stuff,
Yes. That's actually, I said that this morning. I can tell who has really not ever had a bad day as opposed to who is.
Well, one of the funnier things I've heard is like if you're drinking $8 coffees every day and your biggest problem is it gets messed up, then you're soft. You are soft.
Yeah, and I mean, like that's actually the best way to explain it. A lot of people do come to me. It seems like whenever they're in a serious, it's just kind of been that way, and I look at that as a positive thing. There's some people that I actually wish I had their problems.
I can agree with that.
Like, I wish I could complain about.
Well, what bothers me too is when so you could actually solve or you have solutions, but people just refuse to even take into account what you're saying to, or they're just so oblivious they're gonna do their own thing no matter what.
And they're doing it consciously and subconsciously.
Right.
Because somebody heard something or saw something on their phone, they think it's 100% fact. They think, well, there's no other way around it.
Right.
It's just that is beyond. I think that is one of the biggest problems in society today. Like how easily influenced we are.
Right.
How somebody judging me, they're like, well, just stop. Just stop using. How many times did somebody say that to you when you were in full-blown addiction and you were,
For me, not many, because not many people knew. The only people that knew were other users.
When they did, though.
The problem was by the time most people knew, I was in a program. But I have heard people. I have actually had some people though ask me why I can't just leave the program or why I can't just get off. Why this medication is so powerful and why I need to be on it. Things like that. And they don't understand why I have to be at the clinic for right now. Like I started tapering too, but it's still gonna be. Some time. Like it's gonna take time for sure. So people don't fully understand, even with programs, why you have to be there.
The old clinic that was here had been there since I was a little kid.
Yeah, I was there a long time.
I didn't know what that place was.
I didn't either for years.
But I would always see people out there, and they would always be smoking cigarettes and.
I always thought it was just like a counseling, like something like that, and it is, but it's a program, like
right. And I just remember even in high school, like there would be all these cars, and I'd be trying to get by, and I was just like,
right.
Who are these people? You know
right.
what I mean? Get them the fuck out of the way.
I feel like there's a lot of taking things for granted within them groups. Like it's just rough.
Guilty by association, the
just wants to get there and be the first in line and race off as fast as they can to their own lives, and it's crazy. It's definitely a different view and perspective on life when you actually go there.
So 5 years, and it was just about almost 5 years. I was at that clinic or on a
Mm-hmm.
the MAT is
Right.
the best. That's the term for it.
Yeah.
I just knew it was time. Like I just, looking back, it's like I don't know. I don't want to say I regret anything because I'm not against anything like that. I'm really not. I'm not against MAT. I'm not against because in this day and age, we are losing people at like 330 people now.
Well, right. If you regret stuff, it's only harder on your own stress too, though. The
Yeah.
best thing is to try to find, like I was saying a moment ago, some spirituality and forgive and try to move forward and heal. Because
Yeah.
you can't go back. There is no remote.
Right. And I think it's fine to have some regret because I think I said that before on here. It's like I don't really want to be around a person that has
Right.
no regret, like narcissistic.
Or at least doesn't have some shame for the choices, you
Yeah.
know.
And when you get thrown into the whole drug world and everything, you do meet people that do not have a care in the world. It is 100%.
You meet people that your parents tell you about when you're 5.
And you knew damn well they were right too.
That's, yeah. I thought about that one day. I was like, when you're involved in this life, you meet the people that your parents always warned you about. And now you're in the group mingling with some of the, roughest people out there. Like,
I.
Because there's no trust in that life.
No.
Fuck
no.
No matter what someone says about trust, you
They're in a
cannot
full-blown active
trust
addiction.
anybody. Like, there's no way you can trust anybody.
How many times with the absolute probably because you were in a situation where you were vulnerable and withdrawing, you actually gave money to a person and they said they'd come back.
Well, my favorite is there's this one person. She would always come
They
back.
always have a story.
She would always come back, but it would be 2 or 3 days later.
Oh yeah.
Like, she'd always go take care of herself for a day or two and then come back
And
with
act
what
like it
you
was just
needed and then just act like that
no
was what the plan
apology.
was. Like, that, I thought that's what we were doing. Like, I was going to go and come back when I was ready. Like, okay.
At least they came back.
Like...
That's what's sad about that whole thing is you're lucky that she did come back.
But when you know people good enough, they're not going to do anything
Right.
like not come back. But I think that's one of those funny things because she does it to a lot of people. Like,
Yeah.
disappears 2-3 days
Her
and
MO.
then comes back with whatever. And, it's like, it's just a really interesting way to be,
They have a term for that. It's called tweaker time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually 3 days to our, yeah.
Yup. A few
One
minutes.
day is 3 days in tweaker time.
Yeah.
Oh, man. 72 hours.
If they
that
say,
is.
"Oh, I'll be back in an hour or so," that means a day, or
Right.
or 2 days, whichever. Say a couple minutes, it's probably like a day.
With the entitlement and the, people being petty and stuff, like, how do you feel that society is promoting? Is society promoting, like, a lifestyle of constant buying stuff, constantly shopping,
Yeah.
poor choices, or are we trying to build up and actually have good people? Like, where do you see society right now? I mean, it's not a terribly hard answer, but...
It's definitely there's my honest answer is absolutely in the absolute wrong direction.
Yeah, because it's a constant pursuit of more and more and more. Like, you're never happy. That's what they want you to think.
Too much is never enough. We live in an addictive society, even without addiction. Is there any reason why, like, an energy drink should be, like, this big?
No, not at all. Actually, if I remember right, since the 50s, drinks and everything has gotten quite a lot bigger. Like, serving sizes were much smaller
That
70 years ago. Now they're absolutely absurd compared to back then.
do you? We were still in high school when that movie came out, and the Super Size Me.
Yep.
If that ain't a perfect example, and that movie came out, I don't know, like 2000.
Yeah, it's already been a long
maybe?
time. He's done other ones since.
Yeah, but that was a perfect example. Because I remember the thing was, it's called Super Size Me.
Right.
Because every time that they said, would you like it to be a super size or whatever?
He had to
He
do
couldn't
it.
say no. Yeah. And yeah, it's we just overconsume every freaking thing to the point where it's you go to different countries and they are, you know, the whole culture shock thing.
Yeah, that's why I always feel like nowadays too, when you order like a large, like these big coffees that are like this tall, like your body can't even do anything with all that. Like
No, you're
you're
actually
gonna store it or just, you know, go to the bathroom, and it's just you're not
ice.
doing anything with it, and it's ice too. Yeah, like,
It's all a business. It's all a
it's just
scam.
crazy, man. Like back then it was like small, medium, large. Now it's like
medium
small,
is like-
medium, large.
Yeah, a medium.
And then X large, like
yeah, and then there's the super size or whatever. Yeah,
I think they got rid of that though.
Let's-
I don't think gas stations still have supersized stuff, but I don't think that
they just changed
restaurants
the name though. Like a large is probably, you know.
right. But I know that gas stations still have monster drinks and stuff, like just
Oh, yeah.
big cups that are just absurd, like
Well,
sugar intake for a month in one serving.
yeah, and that is not.
That's the
that
worst
sounds
part.
funny, but it
is
is
just
true.
all the sugar. Like so many people are just running on sugar all day, and then they crash and sugar
It's the-
and crash and sugar and crash.
The most addictive and most lethal drug on this earth is sugar.
Well, and that also is a
It's
recipe
proven.
for not feeling good, which in turn you're not going to be happy with your days, which in turn you're just not going to feel, you know, you're going to take things for granted overall because
Yeah.
you're going to wake up on the wrong side of the bed most days.
I felt absolutely just brain fog and just horrible today. You know, it took everything to keep. You know, just kept saying, just try to be positive, try to be positive.
Right. Do you know anybody that does a good job of not taking life for granted? Like, is there anybody that you are around at all that you feel like is
Yeah.
always positive and always...
That's always positive.
Well, that's all, you know, usually, like, that's not taking things for granted on, like, regularly. Like,
Well, trying to think. You know, unfortunately, not enough.
but, I mean, you must know someone or...
Well,
any,
yeah, but I mean, like the most positive person in my
like
life.
explain why you feel that way about that person. You don't have to
Oh.
explain who it is, just
Yeah,
why you feel that way.
Yeah, in fact, it was actually a sponsor of mine years back, and he is probably not only like the nicest, most kind, just one of the best people I know. Like if you were, I can guarantee, like he's the epitome of how anybody can change. Like, and just his whole outlook on everything, and you know that really actually I haven't thought about him in a while because
Isn't it interesting when you start thinking about some of
Yeah.
this stuff and like good people you've been around and just kind of how life kind of can drift you away from certain people and bring you to certain people.
yeah, well, how much pointless shit are we stressing about, worrying about, constantly, always we're giving attention to?
These made up scenarios
Yeah, well,
in our heads.
yeah, that goes with anxiety and everything, but like you said, man, taking life for granted, that is a battle for just about everybody if they're trying not to.
Well, the big thing too is if you're not self-aware,
Yeah,
you're gonna.
In
You are
that-
going to do it. You're gonna take life for granted often.
exactly. And you know that having a true friend is not going to always try to make you feel good or
Mm-hmm. Right. It's not always about being comfortable.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's about making you have to feel something to move forward.
And like I've even told certain people in my life that they have to get better. We both do because I've already invested so much time and energy. We're
Mm,
either gonna, get there together, get better, or, you know,
right. Do you have any practices you do, like even daily, to remind yourself, to have gratitude and not take things for granted? Do you do like positive affirmations or anything like that? Or do you like anything at all?
uh,
Do you write? Or I know that you like
that
to
is what I
do
need to do
things for
more of.
others.
Yep. What I've
So,
learned with that is I'm very selective now who I am gonna help
right,
because there's being selfish and then there's being selfless. But to get better, you do kind of got to be selfish in some ways.
right,
If you're a friend of everybody, you're an enemy to yourself.
right. Because you'll never be your true self in that way.
Well, yeah, and it's like
That's a hard way to be.
you're pulling yourself, you know,
Exactly.
what is that? Burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
I've done that countless times,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just ended in absolute, just horrible.
Right.
Okay, since I've been suffering through post-acute withdrawal for the last like almost 3 months now. How happy was I when I was just telling you, like, my God, I've finally gotten, like, a decent amount of sleep.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard when you're going through that to sleep properly.
It's the best way I can explain it is it's like trying to save your house from burning down, but all you have to put it out is gasoline.
Yeah, that's how it can feel. Actually, when you're, going through those moments, how are you, balancing your thoughts of the future and being in the moment and not, taking these things for granted? Like, that has to be tough with all the thoughts and symptoms and everything going on and regrets from the past that you're trying not to let bother you. I feel like it can be really easy to just be like, screw it all, you
Well,
know?
you know how they say, one day at a time. I don't
Mm.
care how cliche that
Oh,
sounds.
for sure.
That is the only way to really get through it. And sometimes it's just getting through the next 20 minutes,
Right?
you
Every
know.
little battle at a time. You got to win the little victories so you can win the war in the end.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Like, yeah, you self-care is something I'm after the last year I've had just having so many I've never in my life been tested with so much
Mm-hmm.
just back to back. I mean, that I could go on for episodes talking about the past year I've had,
Right.
and it just when I didn't think it could get any worse with what was going on, the absolute what happened was probably the best thing ever because it got me off of I I guess what I'm trying to say is you can turn it's all about your mindset turning a negative into a positive. They say for every you have 10 negative thoughts before one positive thought. On the psychological test and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You just said it earlier. Like, both of us we were not feeling good today.
Mm-hmm.
It was just one of those days like it's raining out, it's like gloomy.
Right. I mean, before we came on, you were talking about how you turn negative feelings and stuff
Yeah.
into a positive and try to look at it as a blessing because it encourages you to help others more.
Yeah, the
Like, elaborate on that more.
well, getting off the clinic and going through like longer than 2 weeks, but the insane part of the withdrawal, uh, it was a solid 2 weeks
Without getting
of
prescribed any Ativan or anything
nothing.
like that. You're doing it with nothing.
In
So,
fact, what I did, I don't. Looking back, it was completely reckless because after I was done with the worst of the withdrawals,
I told you it was.
I went to a doctor, and the doctor, took my vitals, took lab work and everything, and everything was very good. But the doctor actually said to me, he's like, I'm very, very proud and very happy that you did what you did, but he even swore too. He said, "Don't ever fucking do that ever again." He said, because what I did was I withdrawed off uh, methadone, and I was prescribed just like 1 milligram of a benzo, a clonazepam.
Right.
He said that I put myself at like an 80% chance of having full blown seizures, especially, or I could have dehydrated. I'm glad I took pictures of it, of myself through the process, because I fell, because I was so like lightheaded, and I fell and I cracked the side of my like eye bone.
It's very reckless, man. So, I mean, how hard is it to stay positive, though, when you are going through these heavy symptoms and you're having stuff like that happen and you don't want to go back on anything because you're trying to stay off of it and get through this once? It's hard. It can take a couple years.
And the thing is it took having a close family member have the cancer word. I don't even like saying things like that,
I get it.
but not only was it cancer, it was she was literally the 21st person ever to have this type. And
I mean, that is a crazy stat right there. But she did beat it, though, correct?
yeah, she's in full remission. But when she had to get the surgery, she had to get her lymph nodes removed, she had to get part of her liver removed. It's what I thought the least I could do was get off drugs and suffer, because I had never felt that helpless in my entire life.
Right.
And keep in mind, this is like something that I had just had, like, I had lost my dog, who I had had for about 10 years.
Right.
I had lost 2 cousins, and it was just one of those where I was starting to get angry at God. But looking back, I really do believe how it says that God gives his strongest test, or his hardest tests, for his strongest warriors.
Mm-hmm.
And there was 2 people that actually got off and got clean off of the program, even because they seen that I did it.
That's cool.
Like I said, I do not detox at home alone.
Oh, no.
Like I did. What I did was absolutely beyond reckless. Like I said, I'm very lucky.
Well, not only did you do that at home alone, now you are at risk for post-acute withdrawal, which you now likely have, and now it depends on how bad it gets before you get better, which could take some years.
Well, and
so it's a lot. It's a lot more than just
my gratitude for how close me and you are, because you had suffered extremely from post-acute withdrawal. And
right.
I was acting pretty cocky for the first month, wasn't I? Like, oh, I got this, man.
That's what everybody does, though. I did that too.
It's
the
called
first
the honeymoon
month.
Stage.
I was like, after those first few horrible days of withdrawal, you start to feel like you might be yourself again. But then, like 30 days later,
yeah,
all the stuff in your brain starts to get all funky, and all of a sudden you're feeling low and just can't get it right, and you can't think, you're foggy.
Can't sleep.
Things start falling apart, right? And then if you can't sleep, now you're not getting any rest, so everything's getting even harder because your sleep's all over the place, and for me, it just got worse and worse and worse.
It's an absolute... I did, like I said, I'm trying to look at the positive of it, but when I started getting to where, like, 3 days of insomnia.
Yeah, the best.
That's when I was like, I was like, fuck, Dave was right. That's exactly what I thought too. I remember it.
Well, once you make that decision and you cross this line, the only thing to do is do everything in your power to heal. You got to get on vitamins and eat the right foods,
yes,
and make sure to study. Make sure you're doing the right things around the clock. Otherwise, healing will take even longer and you'll feel even worse.
Absolutely. And I feel I've lost...
Is there anything you're doing now to get yourself out of the symptoms when you're, feeling a lot and you might be feeling negative?
When I
What do you
usually go for a walk, like when I absolutely feel.
like? Can you go for a walk though? Because I remember when I had post-acute withdrawal, there were a lot of days that I wanted to go for walks because I walk twice a day.
This
And
morning
I
was
wouldn't even walk. I would just be like, nope. But I would walk with somebody. Whenever somebody wanted to go,
Yes,
I could get
yes.
myself to go with somebody. But when I was home alone, I would just lay there and be like, I want to go for a walk. But I would lay there and then I'd fall asleep. And the next day would come and I wouldn't go. And just keep sleeping and sleeping and being so weak and tired. Unless somebody was there to push me, I just could not get it going.
Exactly. You know, and it's so funny because not being numb and being so self-aware of everything, I've always been a people person. I've always been able to just read people very well. But now it's like on steroids. Like it's like I can tell,
Well, that's the thing. And
I
like,
could tell with the when you texted me this morning that things were not, you're just
Yeah.
having an off day. I mean, it's
Like
rainy,
I
it's
usually
gloomy.
am someone that pushes people to go for walks
Yeah.
and pushes people to exercise. I'm not the one getting pushed by others. That's why in those moments it's just like, geez, this is bad. Like I can't even get off this bed. Like
Right. And you are with the therapy that you're going through. That is a lot. To not be alone, to not feel alone is everything when you're in recovery.
oh, for sure, and nobody really should because there's a lot of people going through exactly what you are, and even someone like me who has stomach erosion and some of these struggles, there are others who have the same struggles I do.
Like I
so.
just said a little bit ago, there's people that would do anything to have the problems we have.
Right.
I don't know about anything, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Some people don't even, they
We-
haven't eaten for days. They haven't, and I don't, I've been in, if looking back at everything we've been through, it's like, we're just lucky we're getting it now. We're figuring out recovery now.
Right.
And my biggest fear would be to be like 45 or 50
Yeah.
and have to do all this.
Oh,
I know
for sure.
I know I won't be able to handle
I
that.
agree with that.
I've heard this. I know I have another relapse in me, but I don't know if I have another recovery in me.
Yeah. What's weird is you see all these people that just continue to go to the programs, but they don't try to do anything to get educated or better themselves. They just go every day, every day, every day, every day. Like, the
And
point
that's-
is you're supposed to go there and educate yourself and learn how to get better and how to heal and then heal and move forward. Not live in a program for the rest of your life and not even attempt to heal just because you feel good enough on methadone that you don't want to or you're content forever.
And that ain't the only thing that they give there, though. They give their Suboxone.
Well, I
and other
understand,
things like
but
that.
a bigger portion of the people
90%
are
of them.
right.
They want
That's
you
where
on the
it's-
methadone. That's
right.
what I don't like about that.
A lot of the people who end up on subs or other stuff end up getting them at places where they can take it home. They go
It's
to those
not as
clinics for a
scheduled, that's
while
why.
and then.
But yeah,
As far as I know, some of the people that go there to get, with subs, they go there because they drive a long distance and they get paid so much to drive that it's worth it to continue to go there every day.
I'm glad you brought that
They're
up
getting
too.
bigger checks than people that are working, just driving back and forth.
It's all designed. You got to think of how much of, if they were to cut addiction, like if somebody found a cure for addiction, they would not, I don't think it would. Just think of how many, if you could take a pill and your addiction would go away. If everybody that had it got access to it in this country,
Mm-hmm.
it would be earth shattering.
Right.
It would absolutely,
For sure.
just the illegal drug trade is a multi-trillion-dollar business alone.
Right.
But we're talking about the legal drug trade, the big pharma, all that is in the trillions easily. It's say we were to completely just take out all the drug trade from the border, and that's just from Mexico.
Right.
Imagine the law enforcement, the prison industry. It's all in industrial complex tied into one.
Right.
And wherever there's a supply, or there's a demand, there will be a supply, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know the same people that make I forget, I believe it was, it's several different kinds of painkillers. There's so many um, different brands and all that
Right.
stuff. The same one that I believe made Oxycontin. I don't want to say Oxycontin. It's something like that. They also make Narcan.
I've heard, yeah.
And so you're making money killing people, or they're overdosing on your medication, and you're reviving them, and because they're probably going to go back to it again.
Right. So that's actually another thing that it brings up, with all this stuff going on in the world. How can people stay grounded and stay happy and not, just get that whole screw it attitude and not take things for granted? How do you.
It took me a long time.
I mean, one thing I feel like is don't get too stressed about the things you can't control.
Yeah.
Too many people are getting too worked up about stuff they can't control, and it's making people just act out and act crazy. But there's no reason to be that upset over stuff you can't control. It's not going to pay any benefit to you. If you can, cut it out. Get rid of it if you can't deal with it.
Yeah.
Or figure out how to control it.
You're totally right when it comes to that. I guess it depends on what you're worrying about or what you think. Like,
just a lot of stuff. Our society as a whole, entitled people, the way everybody, a lot, not everybody, but the way a lot of people act and stuff, and just where we are today.
There's a lot of people I see now.
This whole pursuit of everything culture, like nothing's enough.
The more somebody has something, just like drugs, even if it's not a drug, money, greed, it seems like they're never satisfied.
Right.
It says in the Bible, that is one of the 7 deadly sins is greed, or gluttony.
Mm-hmm.
Just
right.
It says also in the Bible about how fire is the only thing that seems to not ever be satisfied. Like, when it comes to fire, as long as it has the right conditions, it's just gonna keep consuming everything in its path.
For sure.
And that's kind of how I look at it. There's no little bit, I'm just going to use just a teeny tiny bit, especially my drug of choice.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to consume painkillers again, there's no, when I broke my, you remember when I got into that, I got T-boned in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
I broke my shoulder in 3 places, and I was in agony.
Right.
And, they tried giving me like morphine. They didn't even like ask me. They were just like, okay, they were getting it ready and everything. Because I mean, I got hit going 55 miles an hour.
Right.
Like, that was an eye-opening experience too, because it's one thing to be in a car accident, but to be T-boned.
Oh, for sure.
And had she been over just a little bit more to the right, even, she would have hit me.
That's how it is.
Right where I was driving.
Mm-hmm.
In the driver's seat.
Crazy.
I mean, it spun my. It's a Dodge Durango, so it's pretty heavy truck. It spun that truck into a 360, and I broke my collarbone because that's where the seatbelt is, right there.
Yeah.
And I knew I was now looking back, you don't just change completely overnight. It is a gradual process.
For sure, of course.
But even back then, being on the program, but I didn't even get to dose that day, actually. I remember the date because it was a Sunday, and I was just really pressed for time, and in fact, I couldn't even take ibuprofen. The doctor ordered, because he said it's supposed to swell. Your body's supposed to do that naturally for a couple weeks.
Right.
And, this goes into turning a negative situation into a positive. When I got to the hospital, my shoulder's broken or my collarbone was broken in 3 places. I'm like, I'm screaming and everything. And they had to move me from this room, take x-rays in that room. And they kept saying, like, well, just take the pain shot and everything. And I was like, no. I can't do that. And I can't believe, even in absolute agony, I was like, no,
They
no, no,
didn't know
no.
that you were on something.
Yeah, they didn't. You know, when you get hit going 55 miles an hour like that, they're not usually,
Well, yeah, but like
you know, like,
my
hey, are you an addict? Are you
well,
this?
but
You
if
know,
if they have your name, it should be in your record or whatever. Like,
it's they were even. I don't even. I think if even if I had a record there that I had a serious problem or anything, I think they
I
didn't
have
even.
it in my record that I
Most
had it.
people
Like,
that, you know, and when they're rushed in ambulance, and you know, they're the way the truck looked, it looked horrible.
mm,
uh yeah, they were surprised, you know, and I was like, no, no, no. And then I told them, and it was funny because like they kept moving me to different rooms and everything like that. And like it's like they tried doing it again, you know, and it was because it was a different nurse or everything.
right.
And I was like, no, 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 I can't, you know. And I couldn't even take ibuprofen. I had it was supposed to swallow. This was written in doctor's orders, and I was like, all I can take is fucking Tylenol, you know.
Yeah.
And I was in a sling. There's a lot of positive that came out of that situation.
Right.
I had to wait 2 weeks, or maybe it was a week, to see an orthopedic surgeon. You know, to see if I had to have surgery on everything like that. Before I even, like, after I introduced myself and I met him, he was already writing out a prescription for hydrocodone.
Well, that's probably what the common practice is.
Yeah, and I was
With
like, when he,
pain like that, broken bones.
yeah, he was about to hand it to me, and when I looked at it, I was like, oh, I can't.
But if you don't have it in your record, they don't know
Right.
that. So,
Yes. And you know, I just said like I can't and everything, and I said like, you know, I have a problem with that and everything. And I was just happy that I could take ibuprofen after 2 weeks.
yeah.
And looking back, it's like, wow, I was changing even before I realized it.
Right.
You know, that doesn't sound like,
That is weird when you realize stuff like that. When you change subconsciously
yeah.
and then you look back later and you're like, I did make that choice then?
Well,
You know?
I'm glad you said the whole subconscious thing, because 98% of every day are we only use 2% of our conscience. And look that up, actually. Like that is been studied for a very long time, and that is true. Like
Crazy.
I don't I the human brain is the only organ that it's all theories, because we know everything about the human body, but the brain, we're still, it, you know.
Right? Well, there's a lot going on up there. Like, it's crazy to think about what your brain does.
I have my whole body in general, but even my brain has been through many, many, many situations. Like, you know, just what I was talking about, the getting hit going 55 miles an hour like that. And
Wow.
I'm happy that's all that happened was my collarbone.
Yeah.
And a month, it was like a month and a half after the whole thing, I had a follow-up with a different doctor who was like a, to see if by that time if I needed surgery or not. And this was an older doctor. He had been doing this a very long time. He was in his 60s. He said that he has never seen, the only people he's ever seen heal that quick were, he's only seen it once or twice, and it was a toddler, like somebody very young, that it wouldn't be that surprising.
Mm. It's
And
crazy.
I didn't need surgery. And like I had basically made 6 months of recovery in just under 2 months
Nice.
of how my collarbone healed.
Some people do, though.
And that goes along with,
But you probably wouldn't now, though. With everything you've been through, it would probably take you a lot longer to heal.
well, I don't know. I just know that nothing is impossible.
Oh, of course.
You know, I don't give a shit what any doctor says. If they say you have How many people have they said that they're never gonna walk again, and they're walking?
They don't know what they're talking about.
And that,
If they would actually have to be responsible for saying people couldn't have kids and then they'd have kids, they probably wouldn't say it.
yeah, and it's I've proved a lot of people wrong.
But those people should just be thankful too. If you're told you can't have a kid and then you can, be thankful you did. You know?
Absolutely.
A lot of people out there still can't. So
Getting caught up.
sometimes it just happens like that. So
That I'm glad you said that. That getting caught up in the world ain't fair is good luck with that. If you're gonna, that's a perfect way to destroy your life.
if you think the world's not fair for you, just take a little trip downtown and walk around a little bit and see how you feel about the world isn't fair.
You go look at Bakhmut, Ukraine. If you think you're tired
You
of
don't
living
even have to
in this
go
city,
that far though. You just see how not fair it is. Like.
no, but I'm just saying
But is there anything else you want to add today?
I guess just never ever, especially if it's a positive thing. If somebody tells you you can't do it, fuck them.
Yeah, for sure.
Fuck them.
Mhm.
Like if someone thinks
those
that you're
type
a
of people
junkie,
that are like that are typically they're not living. They're selfish. They don't care if they live or die. Usually, they don't care about life.
misery loves company.
Exactly. And I've been telling my mom that big time lately with the stuff that's been going on kind of with my family. Is like, get that misery stuff away. Like, if the people are going to act up regardless of who it is, get that toxic stuff out. Especially if it's going to continue and continue and continue. Go.
Yeah.
Don't need that crap. It doesn't matter who it is. Nobody is worth toxic bullshit.
Especially, yeah, I had to spit on them. Yeah, I don't need, life is hard enough as it is. I don't need somebody trying to make drama or even something more worse,
Right.
Like,
my big thing goes back to what you said earlier. Like, the biggest thing is just remember that remember that other people are going to have it worse than you.
there's people that would
Right.
kill to be in our shoes.
Exactly. You actually, if you have, a roof over your head, family, friends, a car, food, few things you need, you have it better than a lot of people, and at least try to have some gratitude and be thankful for that and stop looking at the things that you don't have.
Yeah.
Looking at what you don't have is just a recipe for being unhappy with your day-to-day life, but you're just wasting your life. And eventually, which I don't know if you realize it, but eventually comes every time. You can always say eventually this, and it's always going to come. So once you realize that, you start to look at things a little differently.
Yeah.
It can seem hard, but it took me a while to understand that whole eventually thing. But now that I have it, I see things really different. Just knowing that it's always going to come. Time will not stop for anybody. So, and you can't stop it. You can't go back. You can only go forward and do what's best for your future.
You could not have said that better.
But I mean, thanks for being here. This is a good conversation. We've been struggling with some things and, seeing different people and the way they act and taking life for granted. And
Yeah.
it's good to have a conversation and just remind ourselves for one, and to remind other people that we are only here for a short time. And if you're going to act like a jackass and take it for granted, you're probably not going to live a very valuable life.
No.
You're going to be unhappy overall. So
Before signing off, put it this way. Somebody said this to me before, too, a very long time ago, and I'll never forget it. If you were to die today, what would you, and, everybody is looking at your legacy,
I wouldn't. I need to do more.
Exactly. And especially
I wouldn't be happy
helping.
with it right now. Not where it is.
That whole old saying, if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just glad that,
Yeah, I'm on the way trying to fight my way back up from that struggle now. So
yeah, it's an everyday struggle, man.
yeah.
We're lucky that, like I said, we've pulled each other out of a lot of bad,
So you need to have
hard
people
days.
you can talk to about stuff and
Right.
that aren't gonna judge you overall. That's what it really is. But yeah, you good?
Yeah.
Sweet. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe. Stay humble, stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, and make good choices for yourself and those around you.
Always do your research.